What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brent and I am the People's Champ, here to bring you another video for the Cyberpunk TCG. This time we are talking about my predictions for the Cyberpunk TCG itself, based off the hype trailer, the IGN article, and all like the key cards that they revealed with those sources. So now these are all just guesses, and my predictions could be way off, or perhaps they could be so accurate that Weirdco might suspect that I hired a crew to infiltrate their HQ and clip the info directly and expose everything to the people. So let's go ahead and get started with my predictions for the Cyberpunk TCG with a slideshow I had made for you here. So first off, how will we win and what is this game about? So I think this game will be a representation of two crews battling it out with one another to complete gigs and build their street reputation up to become living legends. Even though, the mantra is, it's not about how you live, it's how you die that makes you a legend in Night City, but people do try to accomplish the goal of becoming living legends, like Adam Smasher, of course. The guy eventually did die in 2077, but for the most of his life, he was a living legend. He was, an edgerunner killer, an Arasaka assassin of great renown, and, and I think that is kind of like the theme that they're going to kind of go for here. You're trying to boost that street rep. And so I think there will be multiple ways that you could win the game. I think that your goal will be either to take out the opponent's crew, so that being their legends, that being their all their units and everything. I think that there will be a limited pool of legends for you to work with. We'll get into that a little bit later. Or I think it's going to be about reaching a certain number of street rep. Don't know exactly what that number will be, but based off of some of the cards that we've seen on the revealed cards, there are cards that state like this next gig gets +3 street reps. So you're trying to gain the amount of street rep to accomplish more or reach some sort of goal. So that is sort of like my reason why I think it might be like you get 50 street rep, you win the game, or you kill the opponent's remaining entire crew, and then they have nobody to fight you with, no more edgerunner crew to win. So if they got no more legends left, and they can't beat you. So I think those are kind of like more likely the two of the potential win conditions for this game. And of course, you're going to have probably those out of game mechanical wins, like decking out or milling out or is another way to put it. But I think these are going to be the two main ones: taking out an opponent's entire crew or reaching a certain number of street rep. A side one, if I really wanted to guess, is that maybe it's a certain amount of gigs you complete. But that's sort of depending on how gigs are played in this game specifically. So the next up we have that we are going to be starting with 4 colors. See, in the hype trailer and in the reveal cards in the IGN article, we had seen that we have green, yellow, red, and blue cards. Now, they could be tricky. CD Projekt Red and Weirdco could, before releasing the Kickstarter, they could add another color, whether it be purple, whether it be white, whether it be black, whatever color they want to add here, because there's always seems to be about 5 colors in a lot of TCGs, but I think 4 colors starting off would be a decent starting point. And then, of course, we get into deck construction rules. So, I mean, decks, I think, will be most likely be color locked rather than trait locked, because what we've seen with some of the Arasaka cards, there are green Arasaka cards, and then there are red Arasaka cards, so I'm assuming they're going to be blue and yellow Arasaka cards. And so I think more than likely, rather than being like association lock, they're going to be color locked. So you're going to have a yellow deck, a red deck, a blue deck, and a green deck. So I feel like your legend cards are also going to need to be sharing like a similar trait. So like all Arasaka, all Ducados, or some sort of like association with each other. Now that one's kind of a stretch of it, but I also feel like that the legend will be in their own like little legend deck, because I think that the legends will be played face down at the start of the game until you could flip them over somehow via a mechanic, whether that be paying for them or like buying them, or some sort of effect that flips them over to be usable characters in the game. So let's get into what I think the anatomy of the cards are. So we have I have them numbered here. So starting off with number 1, I think this is the casting cost. I think there's going to be some sort of associated resource with the game. I suspect that they're probably going to be like action points of some kind, or maybe like if you really want to get really thematic, euro dollars or eddies or eddy bucks, depending on where you're coming from the game. Eddies are just a slang for euro dollars in the universe. And of course, number 2 is going to be the card type. So there are 3 types that we know about so far, which are legend, units, and gear or cyberware, but I think it's just called gear cards. And of course, number 3, I think that on the top right, I think that's going to be the number of copies that you could attach, or a number of copies that you can play inside the deck. So you could only run 2 of the Goro Takamura cards, hands unclean, of this specific card. Now, I did have some theories that it was going to be the amount of augmentations you could attach to the card, because also what we've seen in the trailer, that when you put cyberware or equipment onto a legend or a unit, it slides underneath them. So I was sitting there thinking that maybe that that number would represent the amount of that you could attach to a card. However, the cyberware cards also have that same symbol. So what I'm really thinking is that is the amount of copies that we could run of this card. So we would if we're building a green Arasaka deck, or a deck that can play Goro Takamura, you can only play 2 of them. And then, of course, we have number 4, which is the symbol that is the euro dollars, the eddy bucks there. I feel like if it's not like the base, the base like resource for the game, I feel like there could be an associated cost, or an alternative cost. Like maybe you'll gain eddies for completing gigs, which you could use to pay a cheaper cost for these legends or for these potential cards that have these eddy buck logos, and that's really just kind of my guess there. Or it could be an additional cost, like if you have to pay 5 plus an additional eddy dollar or something of that effect. That one is kind of a stretch, because that would be an expensive ass card, but I think it's probably has something to do with it obviously has something to do with euro dollars there, but I think it may be an alternative cost more than likely. And of course, we have 5 in the middle there. We have the card traits. So this Goro Takamura is an Arasaka bodyguard, and he's also a corpo. So of course that just makes sense. It kind of falls in the traditional, MTG traits that you would see on cards. And of course, I don't have it numbered, but in the ability boxes where it says Go Solo and Blocker, those are just going to be your keywords. So Go Solo is effectively haste. If you've played Magic the Gathering, he could attack on the turn that he's played. So that also infers to us that there is going to be some sort of summoning sickness with legends, at least with your units and battlers. And of course, blocker, it's pretty obvious, but of course, if you don't know what blocker means, they have the reminder text down there. So that's going to be super helpful for people brand new to TCGs who just love the Cyberpunk IP getting into the games. And of course, number 6 there on the bottom center, I think that's going to be the rarity symbol. So, if you look at the alternate art of Goro Takamura, there is a completely different symbol at the bottom, and I think that's just the rarity symbol. And of course, 7, I think that's just going to be the battle power. That's going to, Goro Takamura, hands unclean, swings for 7. So I think that's pretty obvious there. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be completely flipped, where the cost is 7 and the power is 5, but that just seems weird for a card anatomy setup. So then next up, we got the different types of cards that are my predictions for them. So legend cards, again, we got Goro Takamura here as an example. I feel like, the core foundation of your decks are going to be built around the legend cards, which is why I think in the beginning, like I said, they're going to probably be already played out face down, because as we've seen in the hype trailer, there's cards that allow you to look at face down legend cards. So that means they're probably going to be out on the field in their own zone that are going to be played face down and already in play. And I also think that maybe you'll be able to play them from a legend deck there, as I have stated there. That's kind of what would make sense to me. Or, I could see them being in a main deck, or if everything was contained in a main deck, but I feel like with legend cards being so specific that I feel like you would want them to be in their own individual areas to play from. Then we have unit cards. So unit cards are obviously going to be like the mooks that are used to bolster your legend's crew to help you complete gigs, and they are non-associated. So the unit cards, as you can tell, they don't have any actual traits. So it kind of gives the vibe of people who you just hired to help you. So if if random sword wise, hustle, as that card is called, hustle stands for hired muscle, if you didn't know already. So I feel like those are going to be able to be pretty generic for any deck. Obviously, if it's a color locked, so you would only be able to play that in a red deck. But I just feel like that's the way they're going to be. They're going to be the main bulk of your main deck, is like the mini units to be able to play out to help you out. And of course, if you see in the skill text, that kind of helps us solidify the idea that street cred and gigs are going to be something around the win con, because it allows your gigs to gain more or be worth more street cred. And there is a theory that I have that street cred could be the resource itself. And then we have gear cards. Gear cards, these are going to be the best way to bolster your units and your legend cards, because it is cyberware. It is the implants that you attach to these cards to make them better. And of course, the gear cards are going to be both weapons and or cyberware. I mean, we've seen the Dying Knight V's special pistol in the reveal trailer, and of course, they boost your attack. They probably give you certain abilities, like the Kuroshi optics that we see on screen here. It says look at a friendly face down legend without revealing it, so that means this is part of the reason why I think they're going to be played face down initially and then revealed as you go. That's also why it makes me think that they're going to be played from their own little miniature legend deck, because maybe you're going to be playing out a certain amount of legends face down at the start of the game, and you're not going to know who you have there. And of course, using the Kuroshi optics on a random mook or a unit card to see who you have set up down there, so you could plan your further strategy into the game on who you hire up to be part of your crew that's a legend. I feel like maybe potentially that there will be a limited amount of cyberware cards that can be placed under a unit or a legend, because I feel like it kind of represents that cyber psychosis fear that a lot of edge runners have. If you put too many augmentations on one body, you can only handle so much. Now, I don't know how they would measure that per se. Like I said, originally that number on the top right, I thought maybe might be their cyberware affinity or their limitations, but I still think that is the amount of copies that you could play in a singular deck. Now, gig cards, I feel like we haven't had any revealed, but I feel like gig cards will most likely be cards that can be played in each player's deck, and creating an objective mid-game to complete. So that's you draw into a card, you play a gig card, and then it is technically a neutral objective that your opponent could try to steal from you, or you are trying to complete so you get street cred points. And that's kind of where the player combat starts, where two crews are fighting each other to complete a gig and gain that street cred. And of course, completing gigs are going to be where you get eddies, where I think this is going to be the resources in the game to be able to hire the hustle, to buy aid for more powerful legends, the cyberware. That's why I feel like it might be an alternative cost or an additional cost, because cyberware isn't free. And of course, I feel like completing the gigs are going to be the main way that you get street cred. I don't think you're going to get necessary street cred for killing units and or legends in the game, but it could. Again, this is all speculative, of course. So with that being said, that is where my predictions end, with everything that we have seen with the Cyberpunk TCG, with the cards that have been revealed to us, with the cards that we have seen, with the articles that we've read, and of course some of the questions that I've asked and seen in the Cyberpunk TCG Discord. Now, if you guys have any theories about the Cyberpunk TCG, I would certainly love to hear them down in the comments below. With that being said, though, if you enjoyed this video, if you like this content, if you're waiting for more Cyberpunk TCG content, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And the buttons are all down below, and it costs you nothing. It's one of the few things in Night City that might actually still be free. With that being said, we will catch you in the next one, Chooms. Hey everybody, this is the People's Champ thanking you for watching this video. If you want to see content just like this, there should be a playlist attached at the end of this video. If not, check our channel out and see what else you like there. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe.